Kyle and the Popper and the.
Thank you.
You. We're not far from you.
What's the thing? Is it red?
Yeah, you want it
Everybody
red.
make sure you're on red. Everybody on?
Not yet. I'll try it again. There you go.
Everybody, Michelle, are you on red? Everybody on red. All right. Are you good? Okay. All right, I actually have 5:56, so I will call the meeting to order. If everybody would stand for a moment of silence in the pledge. Flag. If you wouldn't mind, please call the roll.
Chair Harrison,
Present.
Acton,
Present.
Deborah Thomas,
Present.
Jeremy Burnett,
Here.
Michelle Childs. Here. Assistant Superintendent DeLoso.
We do have a quorum, since we, actually our policy calls for our, officer elections in January. Since I'm currently serving as the vice chair, I'll preside over this meeting, and then we will go, in January, we will have it on our agenda to have our officer elections, per our policy. The next item on our agenda is the opportunity for public comment. Would anyone from the public like to speak?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, hearing none, next item. Ms. DeLoso, would you like to lead us, or would you like me to lead? Whichever you're most comfortable with.
Be happy to lead.
Okay.
The next item are the reports, and we'll start with the TLN representative update.
The General Assembly is not in session, and so I do not have an update for that.
Ms. Childs. Next item is the superintendent's report, and on behalf of Dr. Horrell, I just wanted to make a few comments to the board. We had a very successful math textbook adoption where we had all the municipal schools come to Lakeland Preparatory School, and for teachers grades K through high school, we had over 7 different math textbook vendors come and present. And it was a very successful endeavor, and I would really like to acknowledge our instructional supervisors, Ms. Eldridge and Ms. Nelson, as they coordinated this event very successfully. We're right on schedule with that process. Also, around 15 of us, including myself, went to the State Technology Conference, and wanted to share that we had around 15 teachers and administrators attend, and we had 10 sessions presented by Lakeland School System teachers and Dr. Terrell, who presented 4 times, and we also had presentations by Mrs. Bogue, Mrs. Nolan, Mrs. Garland, Dr. Terrell, and one of our preschool teachers, Mrs. That was a successful event, and Lakeland was very well represented there. The next bit of information is we did complete our second round of case benchmark assessments, and Mr. Adler will have a report in January to give an update on those results. And finally, we are in the process of interviewing for our behavior and transition specialist position, and so those interviews are underway. And if there are not any questions, that concludes the report on behalf of Dr. Horrell.
Anyone from the board have any questions? Michelle.
I was just going to say that one of my friends was a parent representative for the textbook, and she just spoke like glowing terms of like what the school looked like. All the other parents there were so impressed with how it was set up, and said that it was really well run and very impressed.
Very successful event, and Lakeland was very well represented, so thank you.
Anyone else from the board? Hearing none, next item.
Next item is the October financial summary, and that will be shared by Ms. Rosales.
The October and November financial summaries we'll go over together. The business meeting was so early in the month last month that, the month wasn't closed out yet. So you have both of those provided to you. I would say, looking at the November financial summary, that you would see maybe 3 accounts that are trending high or are fully expended. Those are fiscal services, the transfer outline item in the general fund. You would say that about, food service. The fiscal services line item is high because we pay for our audit and our insurance and all those things on the front end. Beginning of the year, obviously our audit is finished because we're going to go over that shortly, and that is a hefty bill from Watkins Uberall, and so that item, will trend back kind of more level with the other accounts as the year goes on. The transfer out is the final $700,000 payment that we paid to the city of Lakeland. We did that at the beginning of the year in the first quarter, so that account will stay at 100% spent through the entire fiscal year. We've budgeted to buy some big equipment. So when you look at the nutrition comparison reports, or any of our food service reports really, you're gonna see higher than normal expenditures because we've been making some of those capital purchases to replace equipment. Have any questions about anything on the reports that you received?
Great, hearing none, next item.
Item approval of the agenda.
Is there anything anyone would like to add to the agenda?
Well, not necessarily add to the agenda,
Okay.
but I would, based on some communications from Dr. Horrell and his suggestions, move to include items 1, 4, and 9 on our consent agenda.
Any objection from any board member? Adding item 1, 4, and 9 to the consent agenda? All right, hearing none. That is approved. Is there any items that any board member would like to add or remove from the agenda?
I think Ms. Thomas
That's
beat me
okay.
to it.
It's probably the same one.
I'd also recommend, based on communication from Dr. Horrell earlier today, we remove item 6 and table that until January.
Any objection? All right, based on Dr. Horrell's request from his absence and not able to present on item number 6, we will table that till January. Any other changes to the agenda? All right, hearing none, all in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Are the discussion items?
I think we need to approve the consent agenda.
The next item is the consent agenda.
Is there a motion to get this item on the floor?
So moved.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and the second. This item is properly before us. Is there any objection to approving or any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Discussion items. The first item is the approval of minutes.
We moved that to this consent agenda, so we would be on item number 2. Right?
Item number 2 is the presentation of fiscal year 2021 audit report.
Is there a motion to get this item on the floor?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Did you catch those? Making sure you, okay, making sure you did. So we have a motion and a second. This item was properly before us, and I believe this is an item you're gonna present potentially.
So I will introduce who is going to present this. This is Clark Province.
Welcome.
He is over all of kind of the school system audits and most of the city audits at this point. And so he is going to present a presentation on the audit, and then obviously I'm available for any questions. Mr. Michael was supposed to provide the bound copies that you usually receive of your audit report, but he was out sick today, and so he wasn't able to leave those for us. So you will have those available to you at the January meeting, but you do have the PDF versions that have already been shared with you, and Clark has something on the screen as well. So I will refer to you, Clark. You can go to the podium. Go to the podium.
Is it on? I assume it's on.
Do you have a red light?
Is it got a red light?
Hit the button on the right, that's the person.
There you go.
I see it.
Yes.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Clark Province. I'm a member with Watkins Uberall. I recognize many of your faces. Congratulations to newly elected. I will be here to for the audit summary for the June 30th, 2022 audit. Because some of you are new, I do plan on kind of covering a little bit more than I normally would. Okay, so we are issuing an unmodified opinion for the City of Lakeland audit, okay? Within the City of Lakeland audit, the school is considered a department of the city, and so we also audit your numbers with the city audit. Unmodified opinion is a clean opinion. What I will say specifically related to the school, though, when we issue an audit opinion, within a government entity, we issue multiple audit opinions. So every audit opinion is done at a separate level of materiality. School system specifically, we have an audit opinion on the general purpose fund solely, the federal projects fund this year because it was so large, your OPEB by itself, your capital projects fund as well, and then all of your other funds are in this other number called aggregate other. But what I will say is this is the most separate audit opinions we've ever issued for the school. You're basically the majority of the audit this year. You're like 60% of it this year. We do not audit the MD&A or the RSI schedules that are in your report. The MD&A is what Michael writes or Carlin will be in the future. We do have to do audit procedures over it. We don't issue an audit opinion. And there's some discussion about school numbers in there as well that Jesse fills out. We also issue a compliance audit over your major federal award programs. The school was 2 of the 3 programs this year. The child nutrition cluster, so it's $2 million, I'm guessing off the top of my head. Is that right? $1 million, I'm thinking there. And then your ESSER fund, so that's your Education Stabilization Fund. That includes ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. All clean opinions on those as well. And one thing I want to point out just real quickly, ESSER money was really complicated. There's a lot of stuff going on with that. We fully expected to come in and write a lot of comments on your ESSER funds this year, and there were none. So that speaks very highly of your accounting department and what they've done to make sure that all your controls are in order. And I don't just give Jesse compliments.
We do.
They are hard fought.
Part of our audit opinion will include management's responsibilities over the internal controls within the organization and over generally accepted accounting standards. Again, that's management's responsibility. And we do evaluate your internal controls. Again, there are no deficiencies in your internal controls, and that's separate for the school and the city. We look at those completely separately. We also do some non-attest services for you, like preparing the report. Jesse provides everything to us, or Michael does, and then we report from them. We also talk about our auditor's responsibility, how we express an opinion, how we perform the audit, and then what auditing procedures, high level, that we do. So we are not testing 100% of everything. We sample, we confirm, we look at third-party documentation, and we ask a lot of questions. Overall, we just kind of hit the high notes in here about the general fund. So your general fund decreased 2.7 million to 6.2. That's just a lot of the timing of expenditures, that stuff. Your revenues overall were up. So again, why is your net fund balance down? It's a lot to do with transfers that occurred because your revenues were up as a whole. And your grant revenue is not in your general fund. It's all going to be in your federal projects fund. So this is pure revenues primarily caused by BEP money having increases. Overall, your expenses also increased, which we would expect to see because we spend the revenue that we get in. And again, mostly over regular education. Again, you had a lot of money within federal projects that went to additional teacher funding related to all this ESSER money, which is expected. I do want to hit quickly on note 10, once you see it, is your pensions. All of your pensions, once again, you're currently fully funding the actual determined contribution. All of the pensions as of June 30th are fully funded. What I will say is your pensions are in arrears for a year. And so we know what happened in 2022 is we have big declines in the market. I'm still expecting 2 of those pensions to be fully funded, the cost sharing teacher plans in 2022, 2023. The plan that you do jointly with the city through TCRS, I'm expecting it to go under just because the market's been down so much, but that's nothing that y'all have done incorrectly. I also want to bring attention to your OPEB fund. I put on here a history, a 3-year history of how much you've been funding. And so in 2022, you funded in excess, which is generally what y'all tried to do is you fund excess. In 2021, you didn't because of COVID matters that were going on. But y'all have gotten that back up for 2022. Let's see, we can go over that. That just talks about how I didn't have any issues with your controls, which is the good stuff. Are there any questions y'all would like to ask me? And also, you can email me outside of this meeting if you have any questions.
Member have any questions? Ms. Childs?
I assume you've done other school audits,
Yes.
and what were kind of the examples you found with the ESSER funding?
Normally with the ESSER funding, it's spending the money in the wrong time period, incurring it, or let's strike that, obligating the funds before you're actually incurring it. So you're kind of expensing it. It's a timing issue. Or you could just spend it on the wrong thing. Like ESSER 1 allows the expenditures to go towards certain items that ESSER 2 doesn't allow for. ESSER 3 has to have 20% minimum spent on learning loss. So even if you got 19.95% spent on learning loss, that's still a finding if you didn't spend the full 20. There's just a lot of particularities in there that I could give you a breakdown list for, but it will bore you. But it's just very specific what they wanted to do depending on the act of when it came out.
Thank
Jesse.
Thank you to all of our, thank you, Jesse, but thank you to all of our financial staff, and thank you to Watkins, you all for being here tonight, and for everything that y'all do daily, weekly, monthly, for keeping things in line and keeping us on track. It pays off, especially every year when we get good news, good results. So I know y'all work diligently, and we have lots of conversations about all this, so I just thank y'all very much.
I will also point out, you're also the only audit that has of the state so far that I work on. And I work on like 14, so
That's
all the other ones are still trying to get completed. So they did not start first this year. That's all on them.
This is a worry we never have, so I'm thankful.
Yes, thank you very much, again.
Thank you for coming.
So, I guess we just need to vote to accept the audit report. I don't know that we have any action necessarily, but as a board, I guess we should probably vote to accept the audit.
As a matter of record, do we need to change? 22? I don't know if it matters.
Clerical, I can update.
Okay.
Motion to accept the audit?
A motion, can I get a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Discussion item number 3, discussion action on the 21-22 NIHART report. And that would be by Ms. Rosales.
Hello.
Hello.
You're presenting again.
I know.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I actually probably need to get a motion to get it on the floor.
Yes.
We can do that now, or we can do it after.
We can do it now.
Okay, so can I get a motion to get this item on the floor?
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Do I need to tell you who did that, or you need to keep note?
I'm gonna keep it, that's the theme of the night.
Right now, it's the Keith and Jeremy.
That's right.
I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Since he skipped.
Good. Yes, he got to be relieved of picture duty, so now he's gonna, yes.
So Clark hit on OPEB when he's talking about the audit report. I think everyone here knows what OPEB is, but it's our other post-employment benefit plan. It is a closed plan. Only people who are grandfathered into that are eligible for that benefit. And people are constantly falling off of that plan. So, you know, if someone leaves the school system or they retire and didn't have insurance with Lakeland School System the year prior to their retirement, there's, you know, several reasons that they could come off that plan. But that list is slowly going down. So hopefully our liability will continue to slowly decrease because like I said, it is a closed loop. No one else can go on to it. So I just wanted to hit a couple highlights from our NIHART report. Typically, this is the meeting, you know, that we do talk about our OPEB contribution. We're going to do that for now and circle back to that later in the year when Dr. Horrell's here. But our OPEB liability did decrease for the first time since we've been a school system. Every year, you know, the liabilities went up and up and up because mortality rates and market conditions and all of these different things, our liability just has slowly creeped up. Decrease, first time. We're very excited about that. I do want to note that even though our liability decreased, our assets also decreased just because market conditions were not good last year. So in our NIHART report, we had a loss of investment income of $477,000 for our investments. Had a net increase of the fair market value of our assets of 93, so we netted a loss of $383,000 there. Now we expect that to obviously come back. You know, it's just like your retirement account. The longer it sits out there, you know, it ebbs and flows. So we're not worried about that. But that's also the reason we're not in such a rush to go ahead and make our OPEB payment because it's not earning like it typically does. You know, usually we want to get that money out there like in a savings account where it's earning us some reward, and the market's just not set up to do that for us right now, so we're not as much in a hurry. I do want to note that we contributed $78,000 this past year out of our operating budget, which is separate from our ADC contributions that we make. And so the $78,000 is our pay-as-you-go payments for our retirees that are already drawing OPEB benefits. We have 12 retirees that currently draw post-employment benefits. And so that is their employer portion of their premiums for that insurance, okay? And so we do not take those currently from the trust where we're setting aside all this money to pay for benefits. Currently take them out of a medical insurance line item, just like our active employees, and budget that every year as a pay-as-you-go expense. Okay? So we are not only adding our ADC funds and stockpiling this money away in the trust, but we're covering all of our current commitments with our current operating funds. Everybody? I do want to note that right now, the possible future impact is 69 employees. We have 69 employees left on this list that could potentially draw OPEB benefits at this time. Anybody have any questions about the report that you were sent?
Just one question, because Dr. Hurl and I talked about this last week, and I want to make sure I have a good understanding. We got 69 today. If someone from another school system transferred in and we're on this, we would go to 70 potentially, or am I misunderstanding?
No, so no one can transfer into this
Okay.
plan. It is closed. The number cannot go up. It can go down, but it cannot go up. So even if you're, let's say, Legacy Shelby County at this point, you're not grandfathered into that plan anymore. When we opened Lakeland School System, you were grandfathered in, and when we opened the middle school, we did a special one-time roll of everyone that came in at the opening of the middle school. But that plan, like I said, is a closed plan, so anyone that we bring in under any circumstances right now, short of board action changing our assumptions for our OPEB actuarial, then that number will not go up, it will only go down.
Questions from any board members? Comments?
You again.
Thank you.
And we already have, is it correct in saying we already have budgeted for our, we already have an amount budgeted for our OPEB contribution for this year? And Dr. Horrell was asking that we wait till a future meeting to discuss any changes to that.
Correct. We budget a lump sum amount that we are going to contribute to the ADC because we never had the ADC number at the time that we build the budget. So we budget in a flat number every year. And then above and beyond that, we have the insurance premiums on the active retirees that we just discussed built into the budget as well. So any future recommendation would be adding more money to that to fully fund any actuarially determined contribution for the new year from this report.
Any action needed to accept this report, or since we're not changing an amount at this point, is there any action
We're
needed?
not changing, you don't have to vote to.
All right. If there's no more discussion on this item, next item?
Confirm we moved item 4 to the consent agenda.
Correct.
So
Yes.
we'll move to item 5. Discussion action on approval of policy 4.2091, physical education alternative credit. This would be the first reading of this policy.
Motion to get this item on the board?
Moved.
Is there a second?
It's that chair, I'm telling you.
gave you the opportunity.
We have an item properly before us, and as a reminder, our policy for the first reading, unless the board so chooses to suspend the rules, we will have a second reading, which will take place at our next meeting in order for this actual policy, if it passes tonight, to become effective. So, would you like to speak to this and introduce this to the board? Because I believe this is a new policy, correct? Yes.
It is, and I was talking with Ms. Martin about this policy today. This is a proposed policy for a physical education alternative credit. So this would allow high school students to earn a half credit, their PE credit, if they participate in approved extracurricular activities, and the requirements listed there. They would still need to ensure at least a minimum of 80 hours of physical activity. We've stated that the appropriate activities may include, but they're not limited to, all TSSAA sanctioned sports. Superintendent or the superintendent's designee can approve these activities annually, and the student would submit a request for this alternative credit. There are attendance rates of at least 90%, and the grade would be recorded as pass if these requirements are met.
Question on this item?
So, when they're freshmen, they take lifetime wellness, which is a credit. So this would be beyond the freshman year. At some point, they'd have to have that extra half credit of physical education. So this means they would get that by participating in these sports, and that would free up a slot in their schedule for another half credit course, correct?
You explain it very well.
Okay.
That's correct, so.
Okay.
And as an aside, I think it can take place at any grade. It can
Right.
be 9 through 12 where they can participate in the activity or do the sport or do the, whatever activity we're calling, I guess marching band, I don't know if that's a sport, but, several of them could apply. So,
That's correct. It doesn't have to take place just in the freshman year. They can fill out that form, and all students are required to have that half PE credit, but could obtain it at some time if the process is approved or the form is approved for that sport or alternate.
for clarification, they don't have to do this. If they participate in a sport, they can still take their half PE credit if they wanted to for another course, if they wanted to take whatever course it was, and as an elective. Is that correct?
You're saying they could play a sport and still take PE and receive
Yeah,
the
take this half credit, yes, course as well.
That's my understanding,
Okay.
yes.
On line 10, the student must successfully complete the entire activity or season with an attendance rate of at least 90%. just as a clarifying question, it might be for you or for Ms. Martin, I don't know. Student makes it almost all the way through the season, has a season-ending injury with the last game or two, which would have put them at 90%. But obviously, at that point, we know they can't finish out the season. We still consider that student having completed 90% even though they couldn't finish the season, so to speak, if that makes sense.
I think it could be, as we conversation on a case-by-case basis, and ultimately the superintendent could review that.
Okay.
I was thinking about that before you, Mr. Burnett asked that question. I mean, is it possible 4 could be, at least 90% or minimum 80 hours completed? I'm only asking because there's some sports like competitive swim that they go all the time. I mean, 12 hours or more a week, and they may be way past, 80 hours, but, may be in a play and may not quite hit that 90%, but 85% might be 120 hours. So I'm just asking a clarifying question on that, if it's possible to say at least 90% or, minimum 80 hours required.
So, Carla, can you clarify if the half credit is something that can be earned annually, or is that a one-time thing?
Be a one-time.
One-time thing,
half
okay,
credit.
all
So
right.
a semester,
Okay.
in that sense.
Since this will have a second reading, can you put as a note for item number 4 for Dr. Worrell to take a look at potentially the language and change, to discuss maybe the hours? That might be clarified so that it meets that first bullet point with the 80 hours, so before it comes back, just to get that clarified. All right, so at this point, does anybody wish to amend before we go forward with, yes?
I don't have a minute, but I did want to ask, make Mr. Plumley earn tonight. Do we have the ability to make that change potentially at the next meeting? The 80 hours and or the 90%, just because I don't know TCA by heart, that TCA reference, is it very specific?
I don't know what that TCA reference.
Just hate for us to spend time thinking and maybe all be on board and then Mr. Plumley come back in January and go, no, sorry.
Add that for the review for that line item and see what we can possibly modify that to.
So I apologize. Is this a policy that is mirrored by our surrounding municipal schools as well?
No, it is at Arlington, but I don't know about the rest.
Understanding as well. I've made a note to
So-
consult with Dr. Worrell.
Looked up the reference. It's a minimum of 90 minutes of physical activity per full school week for middle and high school students. The Tennessee Code annotated that part is prescribing what it is for elementary school students and what it is for middle and high school students. That's the cross-reference. It was fun, and then it finally dialed in,
Right.
so.
And then we've also got the Tennessee Board of Education rules. So just, if y'all could just make that as a note and just
We can check
decide
it.
how to word that one for next time. Any more discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item passes and it will be on our meeting for January for its second reading. Next item.
Next item is discussion action item number 7 on the fiscal year 23-24 budget calendar. And Ms. Rosales was going to speak to that item.
Is there a motion to get this item on the floor?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Ms. Rosales, I will let you speak to this one as well.
Okay, we've already started our budget process. It starts early. We'll have meetings through January and February. March is kind of the time that I really work closely with Dr. Worrell on fine tuning all of that. And then in April, we present that to you. Y'all have all of your meetings. It's just the calendar that what happens from April through July. So the meetings that y'all would approve, review, when it goes to the BOC, when it's due to the comptroller's office, and then once it's the Department of Education. And so those are just kind of some dates to give you a timeline of when we expect to one of those steps.
Any board member? I assume these line up with the dates for the city, and they've confirmed, at least at this point, that's when they're meeting?
So I did email them, and they actually gave us those dates to use.
And as Dr. Horwell has said many times up here, if you have items, just like when you, even if you just have a discussion item with him or discussion with him individually, if there's something that you want him to add to the wish list for the budget, certainly get with him and Mr.
Now is the time.
Now is the time. So make sure.
Not
you're-
in April. In
Not in
April, we
April.
already have a draft
So
for you.
if you have something and they'll put it on the, may not. So, any more discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
Next item is discussion action, item number 8, on the fiscal year 22-23 budget amendments to consider for this evening.
Motion to get this item on the floor.
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. You go ahead and.
Yes,
Yes, go ahead.
so on behalf of Dr. Horrell, I would like to recommend 2 bonuses for our staff. And the first is a performance bonus, and that bonus is to acknowledge and celebrate our status as an exemplary school district, celebrate Lakeland Elementary School as being a reward school, and also the very hard work of opening our high school wing this year. And so Dr. Horrell's recommendation to the board is that all certified staff and full-time 12-month staff would receive a $500 performance bonus, and all other staff would receive a $250 bonus. So that would be one of 2. The second bonus that Dr. Horrell is recommending is a retention bonus. And the retention bonus would, he's recommending would be for returning staff from our 21-22 school year of the same amounts. So taken together, that would mean that staff who joined us in 22-23 could receive a bonus of $500 or $250 for the retention bonus. And looking at returning staff could receive bonuses of $1,000 or $500. Sending 2 different bonuses, performance and retention.
Any discussion? Mr. Burnett?
First off, I'll say that I wholly support this idea. As Dr. Horrell says, it's the teachers, it's the teachers, it's the teachers. I'll add, and the janitor, the principal, the supervisors, the central office staff. So I just want to say thank you. I wholly support it. I say it's even more needed in this time when people are worried about increased cost of food and gas, and monthly bills are higher than they've ever been. So I just want to say thank you. We don't get a lot of chances to say thank you with money, but thank you with money.
I echo what Mr. Burnett said. There's so many people we're privileged to have work with and around our kids every day. And you know, they do the big things that everybody notices, but they do the small things that they think nobody notices, but that child notices and that child's family notices. And so like Mr. Burnett said, I'd like to say thank you, and I'd like to say Merry Christmas, and we love you, and we couldn't do what we do or enjoy the successes that we do without you all being there to hug our kids every day. So thank you.
I agree. Everything is,
Our kids show up on a daily basis and loved and taken care of by these wonderful people. So I support this bonus and look forward to our lovely and wonderful staff getting the opportunity to have this and utilize it for hopefully great Christmas gifts, food, whatever it may be.
Staff is the absolute best. Thank you.
I'll speak to this too. The thing that I appreciate is in this time, I know there's times of uncertainty, but it also is a time where there's a demand for teachers everywhere. So teachers have options. And so being able to retain our teachers, and part of this being a retention bonus, I think that is very important. It is very important that our teachers understand that we want them around and we appreciate them. And I think this is also part of a bigger discussion that I believe Dr. Horrell and I have had, that we also would like to look at our salaries and make sure that they're competitive in the market, to make sure for retention purposes. So I want to make sure that everybody knows we appreciate their loyalty to the system. That's a big deal, and being here every day, and staying around year after year after year and helping us build a really amazing school system. So it's a huge thank you. And also the performance side of it. I mean, you know, I know we have lots of discussions about the high school opening, and I mean, I know, you know, there's the buses, the things you have at the beginning of a year, but it's not just because we opened the high school that we actually had a bus conversation. We have it every single year. So there were so many things. Yeah, there was a little bit to work out here and work out there, but I don't want the staff to think that we take it for granted how smoothly it opened. Like, I mean, we don't have these big discussions about, oh, kids aren't learning, or kids aren't getting what they need out of the classroom, or ninth grade kids aren't getting the courses they need. It has, and I have told Dr. Horrell, and I want to make sure I say it publicly, I'm very excited about how the opening went and how things were thought of very thoroughly. There's very significant details that were thought of that people just, I don't want to say take for granted because that's not the right word, but the day keeps going and they don't have to think about it. They don't have to think about what happens with their kid. They're just going on to ninth grade, just going on to the next grade. It's just a natural thing. So it has been very exciting to watch it and watch how it's gone smoothly. Or as smoothly as can be expected with the buses. Because we get text messages about buses every week still, so buses are a great conversation. But so I want to say, and again, the exemplary school district, that is amazing. That's a true testament to our teachers' work, even through COVID, even through everything that they went through, even through DCI, all, you know, there's so much that was fun about the past few years. So the things that the teachers accomplish for us every day and accomplish for families and accomplish for students, that there's not enough thank yous out there. So this is just a small way to say thank you for everything that they've done.
Everybody, yep. And thank you for leading this. Thank you.
Well, and I will add too that, you know, we've had some staffing issues, some people who have left since the beginning of the year, and we've had people sick and people have needed to cover, and, you know, we've had all kinds of issues, and I see it at LPS because I'm there more often, but I know it happens at LES too. What can I do? Who can I cover for you? Why don't you bring your kids in here? They can sit on whatever it is. It's a can-do attitude. It's how can I help? And I think our system is built on that. And I think that may be something, I don't want to be pie in the sky, but it does not happen everywhere, because you've probably been places where that is not the case. But it's a how can I help? And you know, people giving up their planned period or their 25 minutes of lunch to be able to come in and cover somebody else's class who has to be homesick with a sick kid or whatever. And I think the last few years have really kind of exaggerated those qualities in our people, and I'm just proud to know every single one of them.
More discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
The next item is discussion action number 9 on approval of Lakeland School System job
I
descriptions.
think that was.
So we moved that to the consent agenda. Yep, so we're on 10.
Item number 10, discussion action on approval of the 2023 legislative agenda, and I would love for Ms. Childs to speak about that.
Is there a motion to get this item on the floor?
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second? I'll second it. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Childs, the floor is yours.
Okay, So, everyone's been able to see, what we put together this year, but I'll just highlight quickly a couple things. The first one that we really wanted to look at was, as Ms. Harrison mentioned, the teacher shortage. We've noticed this school year, there's been a couple of specific, I guess, older rules, laws, that's impeded our ability to hire staff or retain staff. And so we are putting forward, asking the legislators to eliminate some of these barriers, such as a 30-day posting period, and waivers related to EOC classes that have EOC exams. Also, this is the year of the third grade retention, and us, along with every school board in this state, is asking that that be changed, and that if they're gonna keep it using a test that's not a literacy test, then we ask that they reconsider delaying it, because there was some talk when we were at the convention in November that they might consider delaying it so they can reassess the situation. But if that's not gonna happen, we would at least like, at the very minimum, to get the third grade ELA results by the last day of May, so families can make decisions on what they're gonna do for summer school. And as always, we oppose unfunded mandates and vouchers. So that's the highlights. Any questions or any changes anybody would?
I think when we were in Nashville, we attended a legislative session, and there were a couple of legislators there. And of course, the feeling is the same, no matter what school system you're a part of, that the test that's being used to evaluate the kids and determine whether they need to be retained is not a test that tests their literacy. So that was shouted from the rooftops. The other thing was, actually, one of the legislators actually mentioned maybe we could take some time to focus on grade 1 and grade 2 so that it's not suddenly grade 3 that we're saying, you guys are the lucky ones. We're gonna do this for the first time with you, because you've got that bubble of kids who were affected by COVID, and we emphasized very vociferously that we didn't think this was fair to just jump to this right now, especially given learning loss that kind of exacerbated the whole thing from COVID. So I just wanted to add that, because we were all in that session, I think, to hear the legislators, and they do seem open to going back to the table and talking both sides. So.
And I apologize, Ms. Childs, for not seeing you this earlier, but just to remind me, we had talked about alternative licensure in years past.
It was passed.
It was passed, okay.
Successful.
See,
We got to take it off because that was successful. It was teaching classes like plumbing or welding, that if you had a license in that field, that a school district could choose to hire that person and them not have to go get a degree in education. So that did pass last year.
Reciprocity, right? That was.
Yeah, I think that was the year before,
That was the year
actually.
before.
But yes, the couple of things we had advocated to, again, allow more flexibility on hiring educators from other states and such did pass. So.
Yeah.
Hearing none, all in favor of approving the 2023 legislative, that's a mouthful, legislative agenda, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item.
The next item is discussion item number 11, the signing of the Boardsmanship Code of Conduct. The board members, I believe you have
Everybody should have a copy. Here's a packet of pens.
annually.
Hold on. There's a good one. So this doesn't require a vote of the board, but it requires the signature by each board member. And we will all, today is the 12th, right? Yes. Bring this in to Ms. Rosales. And I believe they're posted online, is that right, once, or no, they're kept, I don't know.
Your personnel file, yes.
There are no more items on the agenda. Are there any announcements?
Welcome, Mr. Acton, the school board. We are thrilled you're here.
Thank you.
Just want to thank Ms. Deloso for stepping in for Dr. Horrell today and doing a fine job. So thank you very much. And then secondly, drive around Lakeland, go look at lights. Please vote often, vote frequently. We need your money.
Yes, Ms. Liza.
And I would just add, I know that Dr. Horrell was really disheartened to miss your first board meeting, Mr. Acton.
I'm sure he's watching.
He's probably out there.
Yes, he's probably watching.
How do you feel about it?
Y'all are all gonna get a text message, yes, I am watching.
Yes, I'm sure we will.
And for our re-elected board members as well, so thank you all.
Well, as we are a school board and we deal with children, I did promise Dr. Horrell that we would be nice to the substitute. So I hope we've done that.
Very nice to me and to Ms. Rosales as well, so
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Just for the record, he's watching.
So as a reminder, the last day of the semester, it's a half day this Friday, is that correct? Do I have that correct?
That's correct.
And this is very exciting. It's the first in Lakeland history. We actually have high school exams this week. It's really exciting. I know these high school students are super excited. So we have another first yet again this week. Thank you for those that attended the PTO Gala. They put on a great event this past weekend. So thank you. That was a wonderful fundraiser that supported Lakeland Preparatory School. I know that there is an auction coming up in March. I think they have a date for the auction. Christmas lights, go around for the LEF, and vote early, vote often.
Choir tonight, orchestra Thursday.
Yes. So, and then actually in the hallway in the morning, I think the band is doing caroling again in the morning. So lots of festivities going on in our school system yet again, like we talked about, from morning till night. It's always busy. So, attend what you can, get to see what you can. It's really exciting. There's always something for somebody to see or do. If you just are sitting at home and want something to do. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion, is there a
Second.
second? We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned. I think I'm supposed to sign. It's not either. Neither of mine do.
Technically speaking, is our old high